Hello and welcome to the training for new data stewards. My name is Denise Schuyler and I'm with the NDE Service Desk. So we'll first talk about some topics about what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about who reports the data. We're going to talk a lot about the NDE portal, the data collections, CDC consolidated data collection, student data, which is the advisor person ID, advisor validation. You'll hear these terms over and over again. Staff data, which is your NDE staff ID, staff reporting, and SSRS validation. We're going to get you information on how to subscribe to the NDE bulletin. I will show you the NDE main website, how to get a hold of the service desk, and some resources. So the data belongs to the districts or systems and is used for many purposes. Sorry about that. Student data is individual student and aggregate level data, program data, such as your special education, food program. Staff data is collected for the accreditation and educator certification offices, as well as for the student and teacher connection. The data is used for state and federal reporting and state accountability and accreditation. And why do we collect all this data? It is for state and federal regulations that NDE is required to meet. So who reports the data? NDE does advise that districts or systems develop a team who work together to view the data to make sure it's been reported correctly. Your team should include your data steward, special education director, counselors, principals, superintendent, etc. It is not just the responsibility of the data steward to report and review all of this data. The district administrator does have the final approval on all collections, and the approval is done in both the fall, October, and year-end, June. We do also recommend that districts or systems provide FERPA training. So FERPA being the Family Education and Privacy Act. Districts and systems should have an annual FERPA training and maintain confidential information. Not all staff should have access to all data. And we do have a presentation available on our data webinar website. It's under the May 11th accordion on the data webinar website. And you would find that, under May of 2022. There's a couple of videos here for federal FERPA training and NDE FERPA. So now let's get into the NDE portal. Data stewards will spend a lot of time in the NDE portal as well as your student information system. We do ask that all portal users have their own portal account. The link to the portal homepage where you can register for the portal is on this slide here. You'll register for your own portal with your own login and password that you would choose. We ask that you do not give out your login and password to others and do not use others' login and password to access the portal. Everyone should be using their own portal collection or portal access. The NDE portal has three main tabs. Those would be the data collections tab. You'll find your consolidated data collection there and many other standalone collections. And then there's the student and staff NSSRS tab where the advisor and staff reporting collections are located. And the My Profile tab where you can keep your contact information up to date. So NDE does not give out activation codes. you would need to contact your district administrator for those activation codes for the collections that you need to add to your portal account. They are the ones responsible for managing the NDE users' portal accounts access for their district. Each collection or report requires an activation code. Not all staff at the district need access to all data. So each collection will have its own activation codes. You'll hear me say that a few times. Some collections may have multiple activation codes. Advisor validation and consolidated data collection are two examples. They have more than one activation code. We also have a help tab on the NDE portal, and this help tab is available before you even log on to the portal. There are some documents available under this help tab, activation codes, how to add and remove activation codes, how to set up your own portal account. And then we have a district administrator's responsibility document advising who should be the district administrator in the NDE portal and also what they are responsible for. So when you have logged on to the NDE portal, you're going to notice that there are two sections. There's an available section. The available section is displays the portal collections that you have already added to your portal account. So you've already gotten an activation code and added the collection to your account. And the online section, which is the collections that are available to be added. However, not all of them need to be added. So if you've already added a collection to your NDE portal account and you need more access, additional access, and need to add another activation code for that collection, you would click that add remove link to the left and add the activation code in the box provided. Or if you're just adding the collection for the first time to your portal account, you'll find it in the online section, and then you'll just click the little blue add to the left, enter the code in the box provided, and you should see that collection now move to your available section. So let's talk a little bit about the data collections tab. There are standalone data collections. So we have the consolidated data collection under that data collections tab. There's also the counselor, library, media not endorsed, or the exempt school district report, non-public curriculum reporting system for non-public systems, and the teacher vacancy survey. So we'll talk more about these collections here in a bit. For instance, the consolidated data collection, which is a collection of collections. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's a home button. So anytime you click that button, it's going to bring you back to this home screen here, where you'll see your list of collections within the CDC. It will also display your username login or your user login and your district and the current school year. If you happen to be the data steward for more than one district, you would be able to change districts on that menu on the left. On the home page, you'll also find 3 buttons at the very top. The first one being a click to view previous data. This will allow you to view the previous year's data collection information because once a collection is closed, you will no longer be able to access that data. There's a button for click for instructions, and that is the instructions for navigating through the consolidated data collection, and a button for click to view calendar, which is the CDC calendar, which will provide you information on what collections are opening when, what the due date is, and their audit window close dates. The CDC also has an open and closed section, kind of like the portal has an available and online section. The open collections are the collections that are currently open and due, and those collections will automatically, once a new collection opens, it will automatically show up in that open collection section. You do not have to use an activation code to add it to the open collection section. And then once a collection past the audit window due date, then it's going to move automatically to that closed collection section, and it will no longer be accessible. However, you have that button, click to view previous year's data, to see previous year's data for those collections. The CDC also has several types, user types of activation codes. You see them listed here on the left-hand side, the all, approver, general, staff, federal, transportation, discipline, and MIPS. Those correspond to the category of collections within the CDC. If you note in the box there, you see some general, some discipline, some federal. So if you only need to do, say, staff CDC collections, then your district administrator may provide you only with the staff activation code. Or if you need to do them all, you might get the all user type activation code. However, only the district administrator can use the approver user type activation code for the CDC. There are instructions available on each collection for that particular collection. The data that is collected in the CDC collections is student level data, and it is aggregate data. The student level data that is collected, is aggregate data, so it's just numbers of students. And the information entered online or file upload. You can do it right online on the collection itself, or upload a file to the collection. Collections must be completed, submitted, and approved. However, only the district administrator can approve the collections. So when you sign on as the data steward and you're completing and submitting the portal collection, if you happen to be responsible for CDC collections, then you would only see this submit button here. Only the district administrator will see the approve button. So just a little bit of information on some of those standalone collections that I mentioned. The counselor, library, media not endorsed. It is a collection that identifies any guidance counselors or library media specialists who are not currently endorsed, but are serving in that capacity while they're still earning or enrolled in a program to complete their endorsements. The exempt school district report, that is a list of your district's students that are applying for exempt school or homeschool and the status of their application. The non-public curriculum reporting system is a collection for the non-public systems, and it collects the data for courses teachers teach and the number of students that they're teaching those courses to. There's the teacher vacancy survey, which gathers data relating to teacher supply. So there are many other standalone collections. This is just an example of a few of them, the more common ones. So now we're going to jump over to the student and staff tab, where you'll find your advisor person ID, advisor validation, NDE staff ID, NSSRS validation, and staff reporting collections. Basically, these are the only collections that you're going to find under the student and staff tab. And in case you're wondering why advisor is misspelled, it's because it's an acronym, and it stands for Advanced Data Views, Improving Student and Educational Response. And we have two collections that have advisor in the title: advisor person ID, which is your collection for creating and updating student ID numbers, and the advisor validation collection, which is the student data from your student information system. So let's first talk about advisor person ID. All students need to have their person ID or their student state ID updated every year in the fall. The collection is open all year for edits or additional, individual students that may come after you've already done your file upload. But we do expect that the student ID numbers be updated every year in the fall. You can enter the information online or upload a file. If you have a student information system that lets you export a file, you can upload that file. If you can't find a student ID number for a student, and you're sure they should have one because they were at another public school, or even a non-public school, please contact the help desk. We'd be happy to help you find that ID number. Or if you come across duplicates or shared ID numbers, please contact us. We try to avoid creating duplicate IDs, but if one happens to occur, we can take care of that situation as well. So the instructions for the advisor person ID can be found in the upper right-hand corner. Once you've accessed the collection, you've added it to your portal account and now have access to the collection. The collection uses, the uses are to assign a person ID to a new student. So say you have a PK kiddo or maybe a student transferring in from out of state, you would need to assign them their Nebraska state ID number. You can search for a person ID for a student who's been in any Nebraska school, again, public, non-public, special purpose. And you can track his student history in the student person ID collection. In the menu on the top of the advisor person ID, you'll have an assign menu item. And under that, you'll see the enter online. This would be how you could enter an individual student who doesn't have an ID number. Now, I would like to mention that just because the kiddo's in PK doesn't mean that they necessarily don't have an ID number. If they were in PK somewhere else, they might have an ID number. However, if you're entering online, all of those asterisk fields, by the way, do need to be entered. But if you're entering online an individual student, this can create an ID number for a student that doesn't have one. Or if the system finds a student already with an ID in the system that looks like the student you entered the data for, you may end up with a near match. And near matches do need to be resolved. And if you have questions about that, you can also contact the ND service desk for help with that. There's also the option to upload a file. So as I mentioned, if you have a student information system where you can export a file specifically for the advisor person ID collection, then you can just upload that file. If you can create your own file if you don't happen to have a student information system you can export a file from. When you're uploading the file, you'll choose the file from your local computer. You'll select either tab or comma in the delimiter drop-down box. So if it's a .tab file, then you'll select tab. If it's a .text or a .csv file, you'll select comma. And then you'll tell the program whether or not the file has a header, yes or no. And then click upload, and hopefully everything goes well. We do have, as I mentioned, you can create your own file. And if you need to create your own file, we do have available on our website some blank templates. They are located under the advisor person ID here on the website. Blank templates to create your own file. There are specific data fields in the advisor person ID that are used to populate advisor validation student demographic information. Those fields are the ID number itself, the student's name, and the student's date of birth. So if a student's name or birth date in advisor validation is incorrect, it's different than from what's in your student information system, the data will need to be corrected in the advisor person ID collection, and it will automatically be corrected in advisor validation. So again, if it's incorrect in advisor validation, but it's correct in your SIS, don't try to publish it from your SIS, because advisor validation isn't getting that information from your SIS. You need to make the correction in person ID. So information is entered into your student information system, your SIS, by your district, and then submitted, synced, published, whatever your term is, into advisor validation. So this data is pushed from your SIS into advisor validation. The SIS vendors are Infinite Campus, PowerSchool, Synergy, NebSIS, GoEduStar, JMC, and SRS is your student information system for special education data. In order to view all data in the advisor validation collection, multiple activation codes may be required, or is required. There are 4 different activation codes for advisor validation. There's the district, program food program, program special education, and program discipline. Most errors and verification reports will require at least 3 of those 4. That would be the district, the program special education, and program food service. If you as the data steward need to review discipline errors and verification reports, then you would also need that 4th program discipline activation code. Please contact your district administrator for those activation codes for advisor validation. So advisor validation is where the data that NDE has received from the student information system is validated. So there are errors and warnings, verification reports with the specific reporting windows, and there are lookups for enrollment and student. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. There is a guide on our website for the advisor validation that has a lot of information for you. It's underneath this advisor validation accordion here, and the quick reference guide. And I'm not going to go through this whole document with you, but there's a lot of information here, and we'll help walk you through how you can use this advisor validation to see the data that we've received from your student information system. Okay, so this is a screenshot of the advisor homepage. You'll see there's a menu on the left, but there's also a menu in the upper right, a little hamburger menu, as we like to call it. Sometimes, or once you get into looking at errors and verification reports and student lookups and things like that, that menu on the left will disappear, but you will always have that hamburger menu in the upper right, where you can still access those menu items, errors, verification reports, lookups, etc. That hamburger menu in the upper right, as I said, is basically the same as the menu that was on the homepage left side. However, there's also a link to contact the NDE service desk. So if you click this link, it's going to open up a little email window, and you'll be sending an email to advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org, which automatically creates a ticket for us at the service desk. Easy way to get to us. So we'll talk a little bit about the errors and warnings in advisor validation, so you can get to those errors on your menu. You would click Review Errors. It will display the domain for those errors. And to see the errors associated to, say, special education, you'll click on that domain name. Now, if you're not able to click on that domain, it's probably because you need one of those additional activation codes for advisor validation. So once you've clicked on the domain to view the list of students in a particular error, you'll click on either the number of errors in the error count column or in the archive warning information count column. And then click on the error number. Again, if you're not able to click on that error number, it is probably because you need one of those additional activation codes from your district administrator. Errors do need to be fixed. Warnings need to be reviewed and fixed if possible. They can also be archived, commented on and archived if there's something that can't be or doesn't need to be fixed. There's also a back button here on this page that will take you back to the domain or take you back to the review all errors. You can reprocess a domain error, or you can reprocess an individual error if you're within that error message. So reprocessing errors after you've resubmitted the data from your student information system to advisor validation hopefully clears those errors. After you've clicked on the number in the error column or the warning column, you'll see a description of the error and a possible resolution, as well as a list of the students with the error displaying below. So you'll have the ID number and the student's name that is involved in this error. We do have a handy little website here where more information can be found for help on correcting errors. If I can get that website to pull up. There we go. So if you go to this help.education.ne.gov website, you can type in an error number and you may find that error correction, how to correct that error listed here. Not all of the errors in advisor validation are on the website yet. We're working on it. So two handy tools here are those lookups, the advisor validation lookups, the enrollment lookup by ID. This enrollment lookup will display a student's entire Nebraska public and special purpose school enrollment history. So you can see where they've been, where they've gone, you know, in case you need to know where a student is transferred in from or transferred out to. And then we have the student lookup by ID, which will display your students' individual student records, for example, demographics, enrollment, special education, attendance, all those individual data sets that are that you've published to advisor or synced to advisor validation for that student for the selected school year. So this is a real handy tool to use when you have those advisor validation errors, to see what data we have received from your student information system. If it's different in advisor validation than what's in your SIS, and your SIS has the correct information, then you'll want to republish that data or resync that data to advisor validation, or correct it in your SIS and resync or republish. So not everything in advisor validation can be caught in an error. So we do have student verification reports available to you to view the data we've received. There are many categories of student verification reports, and this screenshot is only just a few examples. But again, you'll find the verification reports for students in the menu on the left or in the hamburger menu. Once you've clicked on one of those accordions, as we call them, for instance, this one is general and miscellaneous, the list of verification reports will display. You'll have the report name, a description of what's included in the report, and the time of year when the data should be, when the report should be reviewed. If by chance you are not able to click on one of these reports, again, you may need to add one of those additional advisor or validation activation codes to see this data. And finally, for the advisor validation, there is the district admin sign-off. So your district administrator or superintendent will need to review the list of reports prior to approving the actively open collection. So they will need to read the statement here, and below this paragraph that you see in this screenshot, there'll be a list of the verification reports that they need to review before they actually sign off. So the final approval is needed when all verification reports have been reviewed and the data is determined to be final, which happens in the fall and in the follow-up collection and at year end. We do have there's a link here to a district administrator advisor validation approval video where they can get step-by-step instructions for how to go through this approval process. And you could share that with this link with them if they need some help. So here are some advisor validation resources. I did show you that advisor validation guide where it will provide you with a lot of information on how to use the advisor validation collection. The main advisor resources page where there is a ton of information, resources to help you with your data collection processes. And then also that help website. So these resources, these links are on other pages within this presentation, but they're also all located on one page here. So now we're going to skip over to the NDE staff ID collection. Another collection under your student and staff tab. The NDE staff ID collection is for creating new staff ID numbers or for searching for existing staff ID numbers. In most cases, the educator certification system is going to create a new ID number for an applicant based on their social security number search. So if you create a new ID number, if you need to create one, you've searched and haven't found one yet, then be sure to include their social security number so that when that person does submit an application into the TEACH system, the educator certification system, that system will easily locate the applicant in the NDE staff ID collection. Now we'll get to staff reporting. So staff reporting is used to report the district, system, or ESU staff demographic and position assignment information. It does require a new activation code every year. It is a new collection each year. So every new school year, the new staff reporting collection will be available, and you will need to get an activation code from your district administrator to add that collection to your account if you're responsible for doing staff reporting. Each year, the data from the prior year's data collection is auto-populated into the new year. However, there are some key points, some key fields that are missing. Data can be uploaded on an individual staff member basis, or a file upload of your entire district or system can be made to the collection. The data should be updated prior to September 15th every fall, and then it is open throughout the school year and should be kept up to date throughout the school year as staff data changes. There is a link here on this page to our resources for your staff manual. And there are instructions in that manual for the online process and the upload process. So it's an either or. You either update it online or you can upload a file. Sorry. There we go. Staff reporting. This is the online entry. So we ask that you review all the fields that have been pre-populated to ensure that it's correct data. Even, yes, especially those that are pre-populated, because you want to make sure nothing's changed or that it's correct, as well as the position assignment information. They're two separate fields. And you want to make sure if your staff have changed position assignments that they're reported correctly. And then there's the file upload option. So you can download a file from staff reporting from your prior year collection, edit that information, update it to the current year information, and then upload that file. Please note, once a file is uploaded, all prior data is wiped out from the staff reporting. So you want to make sure anytime you're uploading a file to staff reporting, it is your entire district or system staff information. Your staff are all included. You don't want to just upload a file with just a few that you need to make changes to, because those will be the only staff showing in your staff reporting. So there are 3 steps to the staff reporting process. The first step being the staff reporting collection, where it's automatically going to be loaded from the previous year, and you're going to update that information. Edit it online or a file upload. The second step, step 2, is NSSRS validation, which are errors and warnings, validating the data that was entered into your staff reporting collection. So the day after submitting your staff reporting data, you can review errors and verification reports in NSSRS validation, which is a separate collection and does require a separate activation code to add that collection to your account. It is also located under the Student and Staff tab. The activation code that you need to use, there's several activation codes for NSSRS validation. The only one needed to view this, the errors and warnings for staff data, is the role staff data steward. So in NSSRS validation, you can review errors for staff. You would then make corrections in your staff reporting if there are errors. And after making those corrections in staff reporting, go back to your NSSRS validation collection and reprocess those errors. Hopefully they clear. If they don't, they may be one of those errors that needs to go through an overnight process to clear. So wait that overnight and check the next day. If the error is still there, there may need to be additional correction made. And then step 3 are the verification reports for staff in NSSRS validation. There are several reports listed. Current certification report is a report of your staff's current certification status. The current personnel report is a report of the data that you've entered into your staff reporting collection. There's the Title I paraprofessionals report, teachers assigned out of endorsed area or level, and your staff reporting for the GMS Fed IDEA consolidated application, which is a report showing whether or not the staff you've reported in staff reporting are reimbursable, qualified or not, for reimbursement through the GMS Fed IDEA grant. Due dates are due dates, sadly, no. Please refer to the available calendars we have for you. You can find the advisor calendar on our website here. And then the consolidated data collection. The calendar will be found here when it's available. It's not currently available, but will be right here. You can see consolidated data here on the left-hand side of the advisor resources page. So now let's get you subscribed to the NDE bulletin. So you get the announcements on collections opening and many other pertinent information from NDE and other programs within NDE's offices. So to subscribe to the NDE bulletin, you would go to the NDE bulletin website. Now this website is this is where all of the current active bulletin notices display. However, to subscribe to the bulletin and receive notices and receive an email when an item is posted to the website, you would select the envelope icon, enter your first name, last name, and the email address. Uncheck send me all items and select the category that you would like to receive the bulletin notices for. You probably don't need to see them for all different entities, but if you're, say, a public district, you just want to receive the bulletin announcements for the public schools. Then you need to tell us how often you want to see them, whether it's right away, daily digest, or a weekly digest. Right away is when, as soon as an item is posted to that NDE website, you will receive that email with that bulletin notice. You receive that email one time. It does not repeat. A daily digest, similar, it's going to gather up all of the bulletin notices that were sent out in one day and send you one email, one time. And the weekly digest will gather up all of the bulletin notices that went out during a week and send you one email, one time at the end of the week. However, if you subscribe to the weekly digest, you may end up being a week behind on the notification. If something went out on a Monday and you don't get the bulletin email until Friday or even Saturday, you might be a week behind. Our recommendation is right away or daily digest. Then you would just hit the captcha and tell it you're not a robot, and then subscribe and close. If you change school districts or systems, or if your email address changes, you would need to resubscribe with the new email address. There's no way to change the email address on your subscription. You would just resubscribe. Oops, sorry, going backwards. We've provided or provided you a link to our main, the department's main website here, where you can find a lot of information on the specific programs. They each have their own websites, which are available. You click on this little hamburger menu here on their screen, and you can see the different programs that you can find information for. Rules and regulations are on this website. It's information for both districts, schools, and for the public. It is a public website. So now to get to the NDE service desk, because you need help resolving an error or getting into the portal even, please send your email to advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org. An email to this email address automatically creates a ticket in the NDE service desk ticket system, and we answer our tickets in the order in which they are received. If the issue you're having is related to your student information system, your SIS, please contact your SIS support before contacting NDE service desk. the service desk staff are not trained on these student information systems. So contact them first. But if it's related to the NDE portal, advisor validation, any of the collections, advisor help at nebraskacloud.org is how to get to us, to get to your question to us the fastest and a response from us the fastest. We'd like to advise you to watch for information regarding upcoming workdays sent out in the NDE bulletin, or the workdays will be posted on that help website. You find the link here, or on that previous link that we provided, there will be a workday link on the right-hand menu that you can click on to get some workday information. We'll display the schedule, a register, click a link to register for the workdays, the agenda for the day. So please, if you're interested or need help, attend one of our workdays. And then we also have monthly data webinars, and we highly recommend that you register for some of these. For future sessions, you can register, but you can also view on-demand videos from past webinars on this website. I did show it to you a little earlier. So you can register for any of these when the registration is open. It'll display the topics being covered so you can decide whether or not it's one that you should attend, but we highly recommend attending these. They are every second Wednesday of every month from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And that's all I have. So hopefully this information was helpful, but if you should need any further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact us here at the NDE Service Desk. We are here to help. Thanks again.